911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call med control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. Welcome back to Dispatch Dysfunctional, the show where the stories are real, the humor is questionable, and stress is basically our unofficial co-host. Today's guest isn't EMS, but he absolutely knows what it's like when life blindsides you, pulls the emergency brake, and says, "Hey man, you're not okay."
Yep.
He's a keynote speaker, stress management strategist, author of Fry Your Chicken, and a guy who literally went from a heart attack to reevaluating his entire life to handing out rubber chickens as a mental health tool. Phil Barth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And I do know what the EMT is like because I had to ride in the I had EMTs taking care of me after the heart attack, and riding in the ambulance.
It's always fun to be on the other side of the token on that.
I'll tell you,
especially when your friends are the ones taking care of you. That's even better. But anyways,
exactly.
That's another story for another day. Actually, I ran myself over with my tractor and broke my foot. But anyways,
holy cow!
Yeah,
we're not even a minute into this podcast. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. So for everyone meeting you today for the first time, who are you, and what's the one thing you want listeners to walk away with from today?
So I am Phil Barth. I am a retired IT geek that now is a full-time keynote speaker and author. I talk about stress management and goal achievement. And as noted, lots of rubber chickens enter into the discussion. So what I want people to walk away with is ways to fry the stress chickens, the things that are internal or external that are causing them unnecessary stress.
I love it. I love how you put that as well with the chickens. And again, if anyone's just listening, there's an Elmo in the background that he has that dances like a chicken. That's awesome. But anyways,
it is Chicken Dance Elmo. You can probably find it on Amazon.
All right, let's jump in a moment that aged you 20 years in one commercial break. You're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Stage lights, not hot enough to fry a chicken, of course, but millions of eyes are on you. Your heart rate's doing the Macarena, and inside your head, every stressed chicken you've ever had is screaming, "Don't screw this up." That moment, the internal panic that my brain left the chat room melts down, was the beginning of everything you teach today. And for everyone listening, yeah, we know the feeling way too well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
So break down the chickens for us. What exactly is a stress chicken, and why does naming the chaos in your head make it easier to control?
All right, so let's talk about Millionaire.
Okay, that's
actually, when I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I knew back then that it would be extremely stressful if I, for one moment, thought about the fact that over 1 million people are probably going to be watching this in syndication. And if I screw up, everybody will know. So what I did actually in that moment was one of my first stress management lessons. I just fell into it. I said, okay, when I get in the hot seat, before every question comes up, I'm just going to close my eyes for a second, open them back up. And when I open them back up, it will just be me and the question. That's it. And so I shut all the other external things that could scare the crap out of me out. And that got me to $32,000, which wasn't bad. It wasn't enough to tell me what the answer to the $64,000 question was. That's a story for another time. But it did help kind of keep me grounded because, to your point, you could just absolutely freak out about the fact that this, miss one question and you're gone. And,
right.
And you're in there with a bunch of contestants and in the green room, rather, with future and current contestants. And then you watch them and some of them bomb. and,
Wow.
and you know they're just like having a terrible day. A couple of them only won $1,000. Not that $1,000 is nothing, but if it's a once in a lifetime dream and you walk away with 1,000, they were very disappointed. And so you're thinking, well, I got to manage it better than that, and that's where I came up with it.
Gotcha. So so during that event, you're not pre-chosen. You actually have to compete with other people to be able to get on the stage.
No, by that point you were chosen.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Okay.
this was in syndication, right? So effectively, everybody in that green room is your friend because you know that we're all going to go out there and get our turn. And so you kind of, you're just waiting back there. You got nothing else to do. So you make friends and you're rooting for every single one of them. There wasn't a person out there that I thought, man, I hope that so-and-so craps out.
Right.
And so you see the stress. You can see the stress in some other people and you start thinking, better have a way to manage it. And
makes sense.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I forgot that by the time I had my heart attack, but
Yeah, well, hey. So break it down for us. What exactly is a stress chicken and why does naming it actually help control it? I'm kind of curious on that.
Yeah.
It does make sense in my head. I don't know how to explain it in my own head, but it does make sense.
So what I did was in my book, Fry Your Chickens, I talked about the various chickens that kind of, they're inside your head, right? It's things like your fears, your negativities, your self-doubts. And I gave them all names because if you start thinking about your chicken, and I'm holding up a rubber chicken for those of you who are listening, but if you start thinking about it as a little chicken that's got a name, it doesn't make it as scary. So I have chickens like Nasty Negative Nelly, that just every idea you have, she has that's not going to work because, that's a dumb idea. Negativity basically, but you're naming it Negative Nelly. And so when those negative thoughts pop up, you're like, oh, that's Negative Nelly. I fried her before. I'm going to fry her again. Or Doubting Dave. I doubt you're good enough to do this. I doubt you're going to be successful in whatever. And so there were 7 different chickens in the book that I talked about that were just saying, look, you're not good enough. And I gave people, here's how I fried that chicken. Hopefully you can do it too. Because when you do that, then your stress is lowered. And, one of the techniques is realize you've been up against this chicken before. Don't let it stress you out. Just remember, you beat it before, you'll beat it again. And giving it the name, you just like, oh yeah, that's Foul Mouth Frank is one of my favorites. FOWL, Mouth Frank. But he does, in my head at least, use some foul language, pun intended. So you're up against these chickens and you just manage them, because if you don't, they will stress you out and cause health problems. I know.
I've been on the other side of that token as well. I actually had a TIA before because of stress. So,
yep.
And that was, again, not a very wonderful event in my life, but looking back on it, I understand why and know why now. So, as you said, not letting your chickens win is what caught me in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fight my stress and didn't fight it very well.
Yep. Yeah.
So, why does your brain start to catastrophize? I can't speak today. And why does it default to everything is on fire even when everything is fine?
I think it's because that's how we've evolved as creatures, right? Because, many, many years ago, you had to be on the high alert for, if I walk out of the cave, a saber-toothed tiger might get me. I may have that completely wrong. Saber-toothed tigers may have been long gone before the first person. I don't know, but it's a nice little analogy, right?
I like it.
The fact is that life, many, many centuries ago was a lot more dangerous than it is now. And so you had these mechanisms that helped you avoid getting eaten. That's the name of the game in the animal and human kingdom, is you don't want to get eaten. It really messes up your day. So what happens is then through the years, we've all evolved to have this instant stress response. And now we don't need it all the time. There are some times when you need to have stress,
right,
and fight or flight response. But if we default to fight or flight and we are constantly flooding our brains with cortisol and the negative hormones that the negative stress hormones, that does real damage to your brain, to your heart, and to your body overall. And so the idea here is to do things that give you the good homies, the good hormones, your homies, the hormones, like dopamine and the other ones. And there are 4 of them. It's a dose, DOS, oxytocin, serotonin, and
Epinephrine.
endorphins, I think.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So there are things you can do, like go outside, pet your cat or your dog or whatever pet you have, give somebody a hug. There are activities you can do to short circuit the bad hormones and release the good hormones. And I just, instead of trying to think about what hormones I'm generating, I'm just like, what am I doing about the chickens and how am I making my brain happier and better?
Right. I love how one of my former instructors put it is there's always stress in our lives. It's either good stress or bad stress. We want to try to eliminate the bad stress as much as possible. It is not always possible, but eliminate it, as you said, as much as possible.
Yeah. And I talk about that in my stress keynote, that you subtract the bad. You cannot eliminate it, but you subtract what I call the optional stress. So don't get on Facebook and look for an argument, because in the entire history of Facebook, no one has ever been in an argument and said, you're right, you win, I'm wrong. Never. It doesn't happen. So all you're doing is you're causing more stress in your brain by reading things that either by reading things you don't agree with, or just by reading other people fighting. That stresses me out. And by the way, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of Facebook. We can talk about that more later. But yeah, what it does is it wants to keep you glued to the screen. So if it sees you slowing down to read arguments about politics or religion or whether LeBron James or Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever, which, by the way, why do people waste their time? They're both great basketball players. Let it go. But if you're reading through that, it's going to keep feeding you those types of stressors, and it's just going to make things worse for you.
Yeah, and like you said a minute ago, it's getting really bad with politics right now, and it's
awful.
It's horrible. And I honestly think you're an IT guy, so you'll understand this. Is technology has vastly grown and replicated so much that they have to make other algorithms and databases and whatever to make us even more stressed and make us more against each other in the end. And I hate to give into a bunch of the, what you call it, conspiracy theorist, but it seems like it's one big machine that makes us all go against each other. It likes to divide us, in my opinion.
I think you're right, because, again, I think news is the same way.
Right.
Let's have a division, because nobody will turn in to the news to hear good news. I don't know why that is, but we all want to watch and or be a part of the train wreck. I don't get that, but I think that's what they're doing. Yeah. And it would not surprise me. That's exactly what Facebook is. And Zuckerberg's probably listening in on one of my devices right now, but it's true, Mark. Anyway, they are doing that. There was a study that just came out that said Facebook internally estimated that the revenue from ads for products that were fake, bad, harmful, scams, you name it, the revenue for that was $16 billion, and they kept it going. They said, we have to be at least 95% sure that is a fake before we'll pull it down. And I'm telling you, I can go through Facebook and just see that's crap. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. $16 billion was the revenue. They got caught doing it, and the fine was $1 billion.
So they still kept $14 billion.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, we've learned our lesson. We won't go for that money next year. So yeah, I like the fact that on Facebook I can connect with friends that live far away.
Right.
And I can see my niece and her and her husband's 2 young kids. Love that, but I filter everything else out, because it can be a stress cesspool.
Right. I agree. So on the other side of the token, so humor, let's hit that real quick too. So why does humor land so damn hard in dark professions like EMS? Why do responders connect with it?
I think the simple answer is if you don't laugh, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
When I'm stressed, humor releases the positive endorphins.
Right.
Even I'm not going to recommend people have dark senses of humor. I have a very dark sense of humor.
Nothing wrong with that.
As a speaker, the one thing I learned was just because you think everything in the world is funny doesn't mean your audience thinks everything in the world is funny. So I had to tone it, a little more appropriate over time. But I do. I have. Okay, here's the true story. I am sitting in the recovery room after having gotten 2 stents for my heart attack.
Okay.
I am, they had to go up through the groin,
right,
and they had to shoot some air in because they put young blood thinners that if you'll bleed out if they don't put the air in and plug you up, right? So I'm sitting there. My wife is in the room. My middle son is in the room, and 2 speaker friends of mine are in the room. The nurse says, okay, we need to let a little air out of the line. And I'm going to have to describe what I did. She turned around and had her back to me as she let the air out of the line. And as she let the air out of my line, I sucked my cheeks and went like that, like she was letting air out of my body. Okay. In a recovery room next to a bunch of other recovery rooms. My 2 speaker friends were doubled over in laughter. My wife was shaking her head. And so the nurse, who wasn't looking at me, turned around and looked at me. And in the moment she turned around, I just had a normal face. Like, I have no idea why they're laughing. They both got thrown out of the recovery room. And I probably would have if I didn't still have, if they weren't worried that I was going to bleed out. Okay. So why did that appeal? Okay, number one, it was a stressful time, right? I was 24 hours away from saying, you just had a heart attack and we need to figure out how to fix you. And one of the things that runs through your mind is like, well, what if there's no fix? I was counting on being around to dance at my son's wedding, et cetera. And this could be the end. Huge stress. And my wife was under that stress. She didn't appreciate the joke as much as my speaker friends, but my son appreciated it. And it was just a huge release. The nurse absolutely did not appreciate it. And if you're watching this podcast, I am so sorry, but I would do it all over again.
I hate to say it, but EMS would probably have laughed their asses off, and nurses, not so much. Maybe an ER nurse, but
I was laughing with the 2 guys in the ambulance as they were putting me in, where I was cracking jokes. Right. It's like, look, we're hoping to get through this, but I'm not going to sit here and have my funeral in advance. What the hell?
Right. Why? I mean, what the hell's the point?
Yeah. I know some EMS people and they all have great sense of humor and they all go through a lot with, accidents and taking people to the hospital, you name it. I can't say enough good things about what y'all do. And I love to cut up with everybody, but some of the EMS people have the best senses of humor.
I've gotten in trouble a few times on scenes because of my humor, but I may have told a wife or 2 that their loved one was not coming back. They're in the dark zones, but that was not meant to come out of my mouth.
Whoops.
And once the guy was cold, I was like, well, he looks like he's been in a freezer, and that apparently came out of my mouth and not in my brain. But anyways.
Oops, my bad.
That same call, I was like, well, they're not officially dead until they're cold and dead. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm getting written up again.
Oops.
But,
but
yeah, so you spoke about your heart attack, and it happened in spring, is what I've gathered before.
August, actually. August.
So you wrote about it as a spring to remember, the moment where your body basically said, Phil, sit your ass down. You can't outrun stress forever. What led up to it? What were the signs you ignored? And how did that cardiac event become the turning point that made you rethink everything?
Okay, so it actually the symptoms started in the spring, and then the spring was also when I started doing the stress management. So let's take it from the start.
Gotcha.
I it was
That was my bad for writing wrong.
no, well, it's fine. What happened was I started having these symptoms, and as a speaker, I was entered in the Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking, and I was actually in 2011. I made the final 9, and in 2015, I was 20,000 people started, so I had a good year in 2011. 2015, I made the semifinals again, which was the top 100, and so in the spring, I won the right to be in the top 100, and then during the summer was all the practice that you would do for the semifinals and finals that were in Las Vegas in August. All right, so as I'm doing that, I connect with a friend of mine at one of the meetings where I was practicing. And I said, Tom, how have you been? And he said, well, I'm recovering from a heart attack. I'm like, whoa, you're not that old. You're about my age. Tell me more. And, you tell a speaker to tell me more and you're just going to be there for a long time, which is good.
Right.
What I want. And he told me all of the things that happened to him leading up to it. I was falling asleep on the couch in the middle of a TV show. I'm like, been there, done that. And he started telling me other things. I would get tired walking up a set of stairs. And so what happened was from that moment till the heart attack, I was thinking I'd feel something. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's what Tom said he went through. And in that last week before the heart attack, I was at summer camp with my son, and it was just like everything that happened. I was like, oh crap, Tom said that. Oh, Tom said that. We're walking up a hill and I just have to stop. I'm out of breath. And so I'm thinking, well, next week is the semifinals in Las Vegas. So after that, I'm going to go to the doctor. Well, no, wait a minute. The week after that, I've got some work meetings down in Myrtle Beach. I'd hate to miss them. So after that, I'm going to go to the doctor. Right. Well, Thursday at summer camp, I had a heart attack.
Wow.
And so it wasn't a huge surprise, given that, in the late spring, Tom had told me everything he was going through, and I was able to check them all off. Yeah. So then what happened? Recovery was all the way through the end of the year. Gotcha. I was off work for the most part, and my doctor said, look, it's stress. Stress is what's causing this. You need to promise me that you will unplug for 1 week, take 1 week off every 3 months. And I said, okay. And my wife was in the room. So, then it becomes a binding contract. You actually have to do it. So, back to work after the first of the year, and spring break of that year, which was toward the end of March, my wife said, okay, you promised. This is it. We're almost end of March. You're taking a week off. And so we did. We couldn't go anywhere. I was still recovering, but we went to, like, the first day we went to the zoo. And, here's where Facebook comes in a positive way. At the end of the day, I went on Facebook and I said, here were the great things that happened today, the great things that happened to me. And I listed, we saw the baby cheetah. We went to the gorilla enclosure, had a picnic in the car, and I got all kinds of likes. And, if you get likes on Facebook, you're like, wow, my life is woohoo. Right. So I said, well, you know what I need to do? I need to do this again tomorrow. So Art Museum the next day, put another Facebook post on. And as the week went on, I kept doing it and I kept getting likes. And I thought, I wonder how long I can continue doing this. And it's been almost 10 years that I've been doing it. You can find the great things. And that was the stress management key, right? Was I was finding out and looking for what was good in life. And so I'm generating all those positive hormones in my brain and making my body feel better, as opposed to finding what's crappy in life and making it feel worse. And so I've been doing that ever since. Now, recently I used AI to have my puppy tell what the great thing was that happened in Phil's life. She's very good at it.
AI is a very good tool when you use it the right way.
Talking puppies, that will lower your stress. If you watch a talking puppy, you are guaranteed to lower your stress.
I guarantee it would. I think that would lower anyone's stress.
Oh, these the great things that happened to Daddy's Day. And you see wagging her tail. By the way, that's the other tip. Have fun.
You
Life
have to.
Too damn short to not have fun.
That is the damn truth.
Yep.
And it's weird that it takes life-altering events to make you realize these things, but once you have one of them epiphanies in the end, or a life-changing event, you should say, it makes you realize what is truly there, who is truly there, and who is truly behind you.
I know, right? And that's what I tell people is like, I would love to, if I could not, if you wouldn't be hurt, I would love for you to have a heart attack and get that epiphany. But let's try and give it to you without the heart attack. I mean, if they didn't hurt, I'd be like, Oprah, you get a heart attack and you get a heart attack and you get a heart attack. But that's the basis of the keynote is, look, you really don't want a heart attack. They suck. The recovery sucks. Sitting there where you can't move because you're worried about bleeding out afterwards, that sucks. If you haven't been the Widowmaker, that really, really sucks. But there is good on the other side. So let's just skip that bad part and get to the good of stress management.
I love that. And, I wish more people would learn and understand that, but that's why we're here today. So for instance, as responders, we don't have time for yoga retreats, mountain, mediations. Sometimes our breaks really are only 90 seconds in a parking lot between dumpster fire calls. So it hits us hard. It hits us like a fucking freight train. So in your opinion, what is the fastest, most effective stress reduction technique that someone can use right now, today, if they're stressed the fuck out?
If you got 90 seconds, close your eyes and breathe and gun for 5 breaths in 1 minute. So breathe in for 4 and then out for 8. That's what I try to do.
Right.
You know what? Hey, even if you wind up taking 10 breaths, just that and let it go. I'm a big believer, like just stretch your neck or something, just, something to, and as much as possible. And I am really shitty at meditation. But as much as possible, clear your brain. I always felt bad. I was like, oh, people ought to meditate. Not people ought to. I ought to be able to meditate because I've heard so many good things about it. And then I heard a podcast interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they said, "Do you meditate?" He goes, "No, I can't do that stuff." I'm like, well, if it doesn't work for Arnold, it shouldn't work for me. But
very, very valid point.
90 seconds, a stretch, just some deep breathing, something to help. It's not the cure-all, but
right.
It will help. The other thing and I have done yoga, is at the end of our yoga class, they say, okay, now tighten up your legs and then let it go. And you feel this rush of blood to the legs, and then do it with your arms and do it with your chest. And it doesn't take long. You just, and then let it go. And you just feel like, wow, that was really cool. So just something little to just real quickly change the channel.
Right. I love that. So I was reading about you a little bit, and you said music is very helpful as well. So why is music the one that hits the brain so hard?
Honestly, there's something about it, right? Okay, so I'm at the age where you suffer from CRS sometimes, can't remember shit, and or like Zig Ziglar said, I think a lot about the hereafter. I walk into a room and go, now what was I hereafter? But
not just me.
I love Klondike bars, right? I love Klondike bars, and I never forget the name of a Klondike bar. And the reason is, what would you do for?
I just had that playing in my head.
What's that?
I said I just had that playing in my head when you were doing that.
Exactly, right? Nobody forgets that because of the song. So my father passed away in 2019, and I was in the middle of, I had a trip I was doing different stuff for my IT job, and we had the funeral on a Saturday, and then I had to drive right home to Cincinnati afterwards and fly to Grand Prairie, Canada, up in Alberta, the next morning, right? Because it takes all day to get. I
Right.
mean, it's north of Calgary. It's it's 3 long flights. So what happens? Fly up there, have dinner with my colleague, go into the hotel room and crash. Just boom, I'm done. And then I wake up about 4 o'clock their time because that's 7 o'clock my time.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, it suddenly hits me, right? Dad had a long illness. He's better now, better off now, but I'm gonna miss him, right? And so, well, what do? I went downstairs to the fitness center, got on the treadmill and started jogging, and I put on my earbuds and said, "Play Waylon Jennings." And the reason I picked Waylon Jennings is that Waylon has not been proven to reduce stress generically, but Dad was a big country and western fan. I liked very little country and western, but where we met in the middle was Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and a couple others, right? So I'm listening to Waylon, and all of a sudden that music takes me back to not Dad passing away, but when I was young and Dad was driving and the family was going on vacation to Disney, and he's playing Waylon Jennings on an 8-track, not to date myself, but it is what it is. And so you just hear that song, right? And it takes you back to a really nice time. And there are tons of songs. When I hear them, I instantly go back to, dancing with my wife at our wedding, or
Right.
you name it, it takes you back. And it just has this power. I don't necessarily understand it, but I do know that it absolutely works.
You're very right on that. And as you were saying with, music is, I didn't agree with my dad's taste in music, but every time I listen to it, it takes me back to the past.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And it doesn't bring back bad memories. It always brings up the good memories.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've never had one that brought up bad. I guess because I don't remember the songs I was listening to when I broke up with somebody,
Yeah. Yeah, that's normally something you don't want to remember. So you just black that out.
Yeah. Well, because here's why, right? Because whatever song it was, you probably hate it now, so it's not on your playlist.
That's true.
So
And that actually brings me to my next question for you too. Is you talk about micro chickens, the little stressors people ignore until they explode. What's one responders that should overlook? What is one that us responders overlook constantly? Yeah, cannot speak today.
You probably are so busy. I don't know what the specific one is, but I know y'all are busy, right? You're going from call to call to call. And so it's any number of little tiny things that add up. I don't know. For me, if I get really busy, then I'm like, oh, I'm not going to exercise today. Well, that's a bad idea. I think it is. It's I can't remember I should know the names of my chickens better than this, but there's like Busybody Bob or something, or Busy Bob, where you're just too damn busy to do what's important. And none of those little things that you take on are necessarily that important. And I try to, as much as possible, just say, no, I'm not going to do that today. And here's the advice. This is not necessarily micro stressor, but the advice is, as much as possible, here's the one thing I want to get done today. Now, if you're a responder, the shit could hit the fan. I completely understand that. And so you may not get but look, if I get this one thing done today, it's a success, because I used to have these great big checklists, and I love them, right? Checklists are fun because every time you check off something, you get a little hit of dopamine. But if it's just little stuff, little piddly stuff, and you're missing the big picture stuff that'll make you, right? Oh man, I sent out 5 emails, but I didn't exercise. I responded to 10 text messages, but I didn't spend 5 minutes reading something uplifting. Right. So I think what's the micro stressor? Just being constantly busy. I know what it is. It's Colin Powell in his book called it people who are busy bastards. It's like they're constantly moving, but they're not doing anything really important. So to him, they weren't doing anything important.
Right.
To me, one of those little busy things back then, I felt like this is important. Whether or not it was is up for debate.
Well, and on that note is, it may be important to you, but may not be important to someone else. And then the same thing that's important to someone else may not be important to you. So that's one of them trade-offs that we all need to realize as well. Is one responder I worked with prior, he always put his family on the back burner. I don't put my family on the back burner. That's to me, that's more important. But to him, the job was more important. Some people have their priorities fucked up, and some of us don't.
Yep.
But at the same time, we still have to respect their trade-offs that they want to do.
Yeah. I'm like you. I actually, when our oldest is now 30, when he was in kindergarten, and then we had one that I would take to daycare, my job was in the process, my IT job was in the process of being phased out. And so I said, well, look, they said, come into the office and just make sure the systems are running okay, but you don't need to be here all the time. So once a week, I took him and his brother to McDonald's for breakfast. And I remember sitting there thinking, this is really cool.
Yep.
This time is something you'll never get back. This is so much fun to watch these kids eat their, with Joe, the middle son, it was hash browns. With Kenny, it was the hotcakes and sausage meal. By the way, to this day, they still eat the same meals the same way.
Of course.
Kenny still makes little pancake tacos with sausage. 30 years old, still does it. But what I decided in that moment was, Kenny here is 5 years old now, and I have spent a lot of time worrying about work. And where did it get me? They're phasing out my job. So the next job, I'm not going to miss baseball games or scout events or shows at school. They're going to be the priority. And that was probably the best decision I ever made in my life.
I bet that was a big stress reliever as well.
It was. It absolutely was. Because you're thinking, I'm thinking, oh man, I don't want to tell people I got to take some time off to go to my son's baseball game. Goodness, they'll look at me funny. You tell them, they're like, oh, good. Enjoy.
Right.
So worked out well.
So, as responders and actually humans, we all live in patterns. We eat the same snacks, same emotional survival strategies, same routine that should have expired in 2016. What does stepping out of your comfort zone matter so much when you're so burned out?
So the story about stepping out of my comfort zone, it's in the book and in the keynotes, is when I was in I don't remember the exact age. I think it was about 50. This is probably what led to my heart attack, but went to, don't try this at home, kids. I went to an amusement park with my sons, and my oldest son asked, hey, you want to ride a roller coaster with me? And so I did. And, at 25, I say they were a thrill ride. At 50, they're like a hangover on rails. It's just awful. And so you run up, and the chickens are just squawking. What are you doing? You're a fool. You're an idiot. As you run up and down, you're an idiot. And they're screaming in my head. But at the end, my kid looks at me and goes, that was really cool, Dad.
Yep.
I was like, wow, I was the cool dad. And it was a new experience. And anytime I step out of my comfort zone, now understand, I am not going to get on another roller coaster. I did 1 year after that. I'm done. I had my time. Hell of a run. No more roller coasters. But there are things where you get out of your comfort zone, talk to somebody new, play a new card game, whatever, just do something new. And It just amazes me every time I do it. It's just like, that was eye-opening. That was fun. I should do this more often. And it just gives you a new perspective on life. It can be really, really simple. I have a lot of audiobooks, and it was always nonfiction. So I decided to get a couple of fiction books because just something different. I was like, wow, that was really cool. It put my mind in a new story, and it just made me feel better. Lowered my stress by listening to a different genre. Can do that with music too, although probably not most country and western. Just saying.
Hey.
Waylon, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Jr. Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm not into the new stuff. That's not so good. But anyways,
no.
It's
You know,
more
and
pop.
like you said, I'll listen. I'll hear somebody that I wouldn't normally listen to and think of Dad. So,
Right.
um, and I guess I'm starting to like more and more because 2 or 3 other artists just popped into my mind. Yeah, they were kind of cool too.
Right. So actually, on that note, right there is. So why does the brain fight positive change like it's a threat? Why do you think that?
I don't know. I got my theories. You know, it goes back to stepping out of your comfort zone, right? It's everybody says, "Oh, you need to step out of your comfort zone," but you know, when was the last time you went to a mattress store and said, "Give me a bed of nails," right? We like comfort, and so any change the brain perceives as negative, even if it's going to be positive, right? The change of my job going away when we got bought out turned into a positive, right? Because I landed a job with a new company. I got to, you know, I had been stuck in the same similar role for a long time in the old company. I got to go to paper mills and pulp mills, if you like that sort of thing. I did, and got to meet new people. So it turned out to be a great positive. But you know, at the time, I was thinking, you know, this. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's because you need to be prepared for bad things. Going back to how we evolved, right? So, oh, my job's being eliminated. I'm probably going to starve to death, and you know, because I won't be able to ever get another job. Your brain is really good at creating worst case scenarios. When if you step back at it, you know, I don't know. A positive change is like dieting and getting to your ideal weight, but our brain says, "Wait a minute, is that ice cream?" I know why that happens because ice cream's really good.
Who eats ice cream? Crazy people.
Well, color me crazy.
So you speak a lot about courage in your keynotes in your books. What does courage look like on an average Tuesday?
Doing what you know you need to get done. It just not doom scrolling on social media, not waiting for that. And look, this is what it looks like. I'm not saying this is what I do. I try to do it, but seriously, I was like, oh, I got to look that up on my phone, and I pull up my phone because I need to look up something, which was the thing I was supposed to do. And I look at it, it's like, oh, I got a text from somebody. Oh, and there's an email, right? And 5 minutes later, I'm like, what the hell was I looking at my phone for? Oh, yeah, that's right, right. So courage is doing what you know needs to be done. It doesn't, you know, it's not like you're going out and fighting lions, but it's like having the courage. It's also having the courage sometimes to take an ethical stand, to have integrity, and not, you know, not do the wrong thing. I don't know that a lot of people do the wrong thing, but sure as hell makes the news when they do. You know,
Again, yeah.
Go back to the event earlier this year at the Coldplay concert. You know, it makes the news, right?
Yeah, let's take our you know significant non-other to somewhere else.
Unbelievable. And they were mad at Coldplay. It's like,
Yeah.
sure.
You're the
Although I
moron.
will say, going back to AI, I created a picture of me hugging a rubber chicken at a Coldplay concert, saying, "I just want to apologize for my behavior, and it won't happen again."
Yeah, but I bet your wife would appreciate the chicken, not a woman.
She thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And juvenile. But you know what? Dude, we've been married for 35 years. She knows it's going to get juvenile.
Oh, yeah, but me and my wife have been married for 20, so yeah, I understand.
And here's all the long-suffering wives.
Yep. So back to your rubber chickens. What is the weirdest reaction you've ever gotten for handing them out? And another question on top of that one: have you ever thrown and hit someone with one?
Okay, so one time I learned this. I didn't hit somebody, but I was like, lesson 1: always throw them underhand. Okay, and I found that out the hard way. I was in Boston at an event, and when I let go, I was like, oh shit, that's going fast. It didn't hit anybody, but I was like, oh, I'm putting the audience under heavy fire. I I'll talk to the weird reaction second. So
You
what
can
I do is before I go on, I find a table in the back of the room because I'm going to come out, or a group of people in the back of the room that are talking and laughing and having fun. I come over, hey, I'm Phil. I'm going to be doing the keynote. Here's the deal. When I come in, I'm going to be tossing rubber chickens to the crowd. You're going to be the first table or first row that I toss them to. Please act like you want to catch them and not like you're under heavy fire. And they're like, yeah, we're in, right? And so you throw a couple to there, everybody sees them go, oh yeah, rubber chickens. And everybody else in the audience is like, me. And so I toss the rubber chickens out. 95% of the people like the rubber chickens. The other thing we do in my keynotes is the heavy metal chicken dance. My sons are heavy metal guitarists, and so my oldest recorded a heavy metal version of the rubber chicken dance. No, the chicken dance. And so I tell people, right? We talked about it before. Get out of your comfort zone. And I say, everybody agree with that? And they're all, yeah, we agree. I'm like, good. Stand up. We're going to do the heavy metal chicken dance. Okay. This is where we get to 95%, because I have managed at least one event where everybody in the video was dancing. But there's another one, and we were just killing it. And a lady came out. I didn't know she was going to do this, but the organizer came out wearing a rubber chicken costume she bought on Amazon and was doing the chicken dance with me, right? And in the middle of the shot, there are these two people going, this sucks. It's just sitting there. I'm like, you couldn't have sat on the side of the room so we could cut you out of the video. Come on. So
yeah.
I don't have a clue what your question was. I just know that, the reaction, right? The reaction. There are people that are like, I did not come to this conference to be entertained and learn about stress management. I don't know what the hell they came to the conference for, honestly.
Right.
But
what the hell are you doing here?
Right. Exactly. You will get the reactions. And what do I do about it? Here's what I've learned. And I've gotten feedback once in a while saying, well, this was just crap, wasting my time. But the same people, the same conference, I had people like, this was the best keynote I've ever been. You inspired me. And here's what I've learned. I have a speaker friend that tells me, if you're not pissing off 10% of your audience, you're not doing your job. Yep. I don't go 10%, but I cannot target it so that everybody likes it, because it's going to be watered down. And, I'm out there saying, you've got to defeat stress. You've got to do this. These things will work. And 5% of the people are going, no, they won't. That's okay. Because if I cater to the 5%, I'm not going to make the impact on the people who really want it. So it's just like, you know what? If you're going to have a bad reaction, that is absolutely your right. If you want to tear up my books, I'll sell you as many as you want to buy and pay me for, and you can go tear them up, because I get paid for the book either way, right? And that's hard, right? It's hard when people are like, you get a 1-star review, you're like, oh no, man. But what I've learned is, if you want the 5 stars, every once in a while you're going to get a 1-star. It just didn't resonate with people. And if they want to believe differently, that's certainly their right.
Very true. And like the old saying goes, you can't please everybody.
You can't.
If you try, you're going to stress yourself out way too much.
Exactly. I'm going to be adding stress. They didn't like my low stress program. It's stressing me out. Wait a minute.
That's ass backwards.
What's wrong with you, Phil?
Yeah, no. So how do you use humor without hiding behind it emotionally?
But dude, we hide behind it. See, I just hid behind it.
Not very well.
How do you, without hiding behind it? That's, honestly, that's a problem I have, is I tend to use humor. Like, go back to the sucking in my cheeks when I'm in the recovery room for a heart attack. I tend to overuse it a little bit. But if you're not, how do people do that without?
Well, the question says you, but it says, how do you use humor without hiding behind it emotionally?
You got to be real with people. I cannot. I cannot do that to my wife. I cannot hide behind it and not be real and not be emotional with my wife and my sons and my family. Are you still hearing me? Because my
I am.
face froze. Okay.
I hear you.
I mean, it froze on video. My face is fine.
And
But
if your face froze, that's another issue. But anyways,
need to call an EMT. Okay, there I thought out. So how do you do it? There is a certain number of people in your inner circle that you have to be real with.
Yeah.
I'm not, my inner circle does not extend out to everybody in my keynote because they don't have, they're not there to be my therapist, right?
Right.
So the humor is with them. But there is a time to be real, and there is a time to be emotional, and there is a time to address the real problems. And that's what your inner circle is for.
I love that. And here's a question that I'm not sure if it's a good one or not, but how should leaders use humor without being cringe or disrespectful towards their peons, I should say?
Okay. So we've been talking about this with some friends of mine, and I said, if, I worked for a number of years, excuse me, in the IT field. And I said, if I were to graph the quality, how good the boss was and how good their sense of humor was on two axes, it would just be a diagonal line. It just, the best bosses I had a very real sense of humor. And the worst were just had no sense of humor. Or even worse, they thought they did and they weren't that damn funny. If you're listening, you know who I'm talking about. I got the quotes. Oh yeah, that's so and so. All right. So how do you use it? You never, and this was a problem with a couple of them. You never target somebody with your humor. Oh, well, you got that one to work. About time you did something right. Ha ha ha. Never right. Do you ever. I was a boss. You could absolutely target yourself with your humor, right? That's the one person that I know won't get offended if I make fun of me, right? Me. And as long as it's sincere, when you make a joke about yourself, people will say, okay, there's a little humility here. Maybe you'd like the joke, maybe you didn't, but you use it that way. You also use it because people have to know that there's more to life than this job, right? So you make a joke about it. You don't target people, but you show a sense of humor. You show that laughter is going to be important in my group, in my company, in my whatever, and people will relate to that, and that will lower their stress.
Gotcha. And so how and why does the brain remember lessons better when we laugh about things rather than, like you were saying, you degrade someone or preach to them? We always remember better when we're laughing.
We remember the lessons better when we're laughing. It's real simple, because if a boss tears you down to try and make a point, all you remember is being torn down.
Yep.
And I remember the time that asshole said this, and I will never forgive him or her for this. And maybe they had a valid point. You will never remember it. All you will remember is you embarrassed me, you pissed me off, and you will not remember the lesson. Whereas with humor, if there's a lesson behind it, you'll remember it. And even if something's screwed up, you can make a joke. And people,
right.
Okay, boss did not hand my head to me. I will remember the lesson now. I will respect the boss the next time he asks me to do something, or she. I'm putting myself in the boss mode here. The next time they ask me about that, I'll be prepared. And so, it's humor. I think if you use humor effectively, you're showing respect, you're showing humility, and people will connect and learn the lesson.
It's very well put.
Thank you.
So, Phil, before we wrap this up, I want to give you the mic one last time, speaking directly to the responders listening, the tired, burned out, stressed out, holding it together with duct tape responders. What's the one thing you want them to carry away after today?
I don't know if there's just one thing. Number one, you responders are just you're doing God's work. It's just, I have all the respect in the world for what you do, especially if you're listening. The two, I wish I remembered your names, that took me to the hospital from scout camp. You're doing a great service for people, but don't forget the most important patient, yourself. So take as much time as you need, or at least as much time as you can get. Care for yourself. Take a humor break. Take a breathing break, because you have to care. It's like the most overused analogy by speakers in the world. I'm going to do it, right? You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before the other person. So take care of yourself.
Right. And on that note, I'd like to say that goes for every responder: EMS, fire, police, all of them.
100%.
We all need to take care of ourselves before we can take care of anyone else. You can't run into a house if you're worried about what's going on at your own home. You can't take care of a domestic dispute if you're worried about your wife or your kids, or you have to prioritize in the line of threats and in the line of fire, if you will. Same thing we do on the truck. We can't put our lives in our own heads before we help families. You have to treat yourself before you treat others.
Yep.
And I think that's right what you said, but I just wanted to backtrack on that one for a second.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, take care of yourselves. You only get one life.
That's very true. And when you reach one of them traumatic events, I promise it changes.
Yeah, you only get one heart. Take care of it.
Yeah, one brain, one heart. I had 2 feet.
Or
one broken.
For the case of having half a brain.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.